ladies and gentlemen, saints and seekers, I came to remind you today about a story so powerful, so profound, and so faltering, that if you grab hold of it, your heart will never be the same again. This is not your ordinary romance. This is not a fleeting feeling or a seasonal affair. This is the greatest love story ever told. Absolutely here's an expanded, rich, and flowing version of keynote 1 without an ending sentence, written in that same passionate, uplifting style, 1. Love that chose you before you could choose it. Before you ever took your first breath, before you ever cried your first tear, before you ever learned how to spell your own name. Love had already signed its name across the pages of your life. You weren't chosen because of your charm, your talent, your status, or your skill. You weren't picked like a contestant in a competition where the strongest, the smartest, or the most beautiful win the prize. No, this love story started when you were still hidden in the shadows of eternity, before the foundation of the world was ever laid. This love was not a last-minute decision. It wasn't some accidental encounter. You were not an afterthought or a backup plan. You were not overlooked or ignored until there were no other options left. You were handpicked, deliberately, intentionally, and purposefully chosen. Long before anyone else ever had an opinion about your worth, long before the world had the chance to label you, judge you, or misdefine you, love had already spoken for you. Love had already written your name in bold letters on the heart of destiny. And this wasn't the kind of choosing that depends on your performance. This wasn't a choice based on your perfection or your ability to meet expectations. This wasn't a choice that changed with moods or seasons, nor was it a choice that could be voted on or vetoed by people who couldn't see your true value. This was a choice that saw your beginning, your middle, and your end and still said yes. It saw the tears you haven't cried yet, the battles you haven't fought yet, the mistakes you haven't made yet, and still wrapped its arms around you like you were already victorious. This love didn't wait until you were cleaned up, straightened out, polished, and perfected. It didn't wait until you crossed every T and dotted every I. It chose you when you were still broken, when you were still bound, when you were still lost, when you were still tangled up in the chaos of your own making. It chose you when you doubted yourself. It chose you when you questioned your worth. It chose you when the mirror showed you flaws and the world showed you rejection. Love said, I see you, I know you, and I still choose you. Because this is not a human kind of love. This is not the love that's fickle, that rises and falls based on emotions, or that withdraws when you've fallen short. This is a love rooted in eternal truth. This is a love written in unshakable commitment. This is a love that does not shift like shadows, does not break under pressure, and does not bow to the winds of circumstance. Even when you walked away, this love never revoked its choice. Even when you doubted, this love never reconsidered. Even when you tried to disqualify yourself, this love kept your seat reserved at the table. It chose you with full knowledge of your past and your future. It chose you knowing the secrets you hide from others and the silent struggles you battle within yourself. It chose you when you were unlovable by human standards, when you were unreachable by human hands, and when you were unfixable by human effort. This love knew about your weaknesses, your insecurities, your habits, your inconsistencies, and yet it still circled your name and wrote it in ink that cannot be erased. It didn't pick you because you had it all together. It picked you because even in your brokenness, you were worth it. This is the kind of love that walks into your life when everyone else walks out. This is the kind of love that plants its feet when the storms of life try to blow you away. This is the kind of love that knew every single page of your story and still turned to the chapter marked Chosen. This love chose you before you ever knew what it meant to choose anything at all. Absolutely, here's an expanded, flowing version of keynote to in that same passionate, soulful style, without an ending sentence, *2. Love that covers your flaws, not condemns them. This love is not interested in your mask, your performance, or the carefully edited version of yourself you show the world. This is the kind of love that dares to walk into the messy rooms of your soul, the places where you try to lock the door, draw the blinds, and hide the clutter you don't want anyone to see. While people are busy measuring you by your mistakes, labeling you by your failures, and condemning you for not meeting their expectations, this love steps into the middle of your flaws and covers you like a garment that refuses to let your nakedness be exposed to the world. This love doesn't point a finger at your weaknesses. It stretches out a hand to lift you from them. It doesn't take pleasure in rehearsing your shortcomings or reminding you of every time you fell short. This love doesn't hold your past against you like a gavel waiting to declare you guilty. No, this love stands between you and your accusers. It silences the voices of condemnation, both around you and within you, and wraps you in the security of acceptance that is not earned but freely given. This is not the kind of love that disappears when the truth about you shows up. It's easy to love someone when the lights are dim, when the image is controlled, and when everything looks picture perfect. But this love waits until the light is bright, until every blemish is visible, until every flaw is undeniable, and then it steps closer rather than walking away. It doesn't run from the truth about you. It embraces you in spite of it. This is the love that walks into the courtroom of your life, stands before the judge and says, "I'll take the penalty, I'll carry the weight, I'll pay the price." And while others may define you by your weakest moments, this love sees beyond the surface. It sees the heart behind the habit. It sees the pain behind the attitude. It sees the wound behind the wall you've built around yourself. Where others see a mess, this love sees a masterpiece still under construction. Where others see broken pieces, this love sees potential waiting to be restored. Where others see a failure, this love sees a future. This love doesn't give up on you when you stumble. It doesn't write you off when you fall short. It doesn't put conditions on its affection. It covers you not to enable your brokenness, but to protect your dignity while you heal. It shields you from the stones that life would throw. It shields you from the sharp words of those who don't know your full story. It shields you from the guilt and shame that would crush your spirit if left unchallenged. This love is not blind to your flaws, but it refuses to let your flaws define you. It does not turn its back on you when you mess up. It does not abandon you in your darkest hour. It covers you the way a shelter covers a traveler in the middle of a storm, not because the storm doesn't exist, but because you are worth protecting until the storm passes. This love will cover you when the world uncovers you. It will protect you when the world exposes you. It will guard you when the world discards you. And the beauty of this love is that it doesn't just cover the surface. It doesn't throw a blanket over the problem and pretend it doesn't exist. It covers you with compassion while working on your transformation. It shields you while shaping you. It holds you while healing you. It accepts you while mending you. Because real love knows that people don't grow in the soil of condemnation. They grow in the light of acceptance, and they bloom under the warmth of grace. This love covers what others would use against you. It shields what others would expose. It embraces what others would reject. This love, this deep and unwavering love, understands that your flaws are part of your humanity, but they are not the sum total of your identity. Absolutely, here's an expanded, deep and flowing version of keynote 3 asterisk asterisk in that same rich, passionate style, without an ending sentence. Asterisk asterisk 3. Love that sacrifices, not selfishness. Asterisk asterisk, this love is not a love that waits to be served, pampered, or praised. This love does not sit on a throne of entitlement, demanding to be catered to or constantly asking, "What can you do for me?" This is not the shallow, self-centered love the world has grown accustomed to, the kind of love that only sticks around as long as it's convenient, as long as the benefits outweigh the costs, as long as it doesn't require too much effort or too much commitment. No, this is a love that gives, a love that sacrifices without hesitation, without condition, and without keeping score. This is the kind of love that steps forward when others step back. It is the kind of love that stands in the gap when the gap is too wide for anyone else to cross. It doesn't sit in comfort while watching others suffer. It doesn't turn a blind eye to pain. It doesn't close its ears to the cries of the broken or the forgotten. This love gives not out of abundance, but out of its very essence. It gives when giving costs everything. It gives when the price is heavy. It gives when the road is rough, when the path is lonely, and when the sacrifice cuts deep into the heart of self. This love does not look for the easy way out. It doesn't bargain for a discount on devotion. It doesn't search for loopholes in loyalty. It doesn't offer love on layaway or commitment on credit. This is a love that pays in full, not in installments. It is a love that laid down pride, power, and position, and picked up humility, service, and selflessness. It is a love that bends down low so that someone else can rise up high. It is a love that chooses the cross over comfort, the burden over the blessing, and the sacrifice over self-satisfaction. This love is not transactional. It does not give to get. It doesn't calculate returns on investment. It doesn't check the balance sheet of affection to see whether the other person has earned the gift. This love pours itself out with no guarantee of being appreciated, acknowledged, or even accepted. It doesn't measure the worthiness of the recipient before offering the sacrifice. It doesn't withhold itself when it is unreciprocated. It doesn't ration itself based on how well it is received. It gives because giving is woven into its very nature. And this sacrifice is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it shows up in the silent acts of endurance, in the unseen choices to keep loving when it would be easier to walk away. Sometimes it shows up in the quiet decisions to forgive when revenge would feel more satisfying. Sometimes it shows up in the steady commitment to stand by someone's side when the world has turned against them. This love sacrifices time, energy, and emotion without complaint, without resentment, and without regret. It sacrifices the need to be right for the opportunity to be kind. It sacrifices the desire to control for the ability to trust. It sacrifices comfort for the calling. It sacrifices convenience for covenant. It sacrifices the short-term gain for long-term grace. It sacrifices the applause of the crowd for the peace of knowing you stood for what is true and pure. And this love sacrifices not because it is weak, but because it is strong enough to endure the weight of selflessness in a world obsessed with self-interest. This love stands as a living testimony that the greatest power is not in how much you can take, but in how much you are willing to give. It is not about demanding affection, but about offering yourself as a living gift. It is not about manipulating outcomes, but about surrendering control. It is not about possession, but about presence. It is not about hoarding, but about releasing. It is not about being served, but about serving. Because real love is not measured by what it receives, but by what it is willing to lay down without hesitation, without limit, and without looking back.